Let's head to Paris, where European affairs journalist Stéphane de Vries is standing by. Stéphane, the U.S. has picked fights over trade with its partners, the EU, Canada, Mexico and China. Well, will it be able to stand its ground?
Yes, absolutely. I think the European Union, by introducing these retaliatory measures today, shows that it can fight back. Of course, it's hitting at very important regions, important states for Donald Trump. They are hitting on bourbon, on Harley-Davidson, on cranberries, you would say. Wow, what does these products have to do with cars and steel? Well, actually, these are all products being produced in states like Wisconsin and Kentucky. So it's actually a pretty smart political move of the European Union. But of course, in general, a trade war is never good news, nor for the countries, nor for the world economy, and of course, not for the consumers. But the problem is, with the trade war, it's pretty childish, because in this case, the United States is imposing trade tariffs on steel and cars. The European Union says, okay, we're going to hit you with bourbon and Harley-Davidson. Tomorrow, the US will probably pick other products. So where is it going to stop? It's bad news for the world economy. But at this very moment, it seems like the European Union has the upper hand.
Yeah, but we know what's interesting is when these products were picked out by the EU, it was not just about trade, it was also symbolic. They picked out American products to send out a message. But how far can this trade war go?
Well, of course, the two economies are very dependent on each other. The US is the the European Union's largest trade partner when it comes to external EU trade. You should not forget that the biggest part of the international trade is within inside the European Union. So even though it may affect the European Union's economy, the trade within the Union is much bigger than the trade with the US. Now, it also looks that Donald Trump is targeting Germany. He lashed out already this week about immigration to Angela Merkel. And of course, the tariffs are now, well, they're trying to punish the imports of machinery and vehicles to sectors dominated by Germany. The US has actually an enormous trade deficit with Germany, so it's basically aimed at Germany, because French car makers, for instance, they hardly export anything to the US. Now, Donald Trump can well be making a big mistake here, because ironically, the Germans also produce a lot of cars in the US. So when these German car makers are being hit, when they, for instance, will have to lay off people, then people in the United States will lose their jobs as well. So it's not a very smart move. On the other hand, it could also be a negotiation tactic by Donald Trump. Behind closed doors, the EU and the US are still talking about a trade agreement. And since Trump likes to be seen as a deal maker, he seems to run the country like he's running his businesses. This could be, a negotiation tactic to put pressure on the European Union to negotiate a very interesting trade agreement for the US. So it may well be, be in for a very short while. In a very short while, we could have a solution. But at this very moment, it looks like the US may have gone a little bit too far.
Right. Thank you for that analysis. Stéphane de Vries there, European affairs journalist.